now, but it takes a little bit for people to come through. So I'm gonna wait a minute or two. You're based in LA, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Dope. And you're still doing your class, your UCLA class?
I am. We actually just started this last week, Thursday. So obviously a little different since we're online, but packed class as usual, just online now.
Nice. What's the topic of that class?
Music industry entrepreneurship. So
Nice. So that was more general. Obviously, you know a lot about the music industry, but you've really focused on, like rights, and you know a lot about publishing and copyright.
I mean, you've known me for a long time, so you've sort of seen the shifts. I definitely have shifted in terms of my focus, starting first hands-on with artists, as you know.
Wow.
Managing artists, working with artists with my independent label, putting artists on tour, discovering artists. So more marketing and creative side. But there was a shift in early about 2011, 2012 when I was working licensing.
Actually, hold that thought, because that's going to be the first question I want to.
Oh, okay. You're asking my questions.
Yeah.
Started.
My bad. That's my fault. So we're getting a good group of people coming in now. So we'll get started. So today we always have a special session, but this session there's going to be and there's information in every session that people really need to know. But this one in particular, you guys really need to know. Hopefully we can clear up a lot of confusion that's out there. Today we have the head of third-party partnerships at the MLC. Correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. So Mr. Dave Bogan, thank you for joining us. Can you kind of dive into what you were just about to do? We always like to dive into the background, and then, bring us up to current times and jump into that. So, can you just give us a little background about yourself?
Yeah, I get a quick, most recent last 10 years background, but I'll go from when we met, because we met in 2010, or actually we met before then. But I'm currently the head of third-party partnerships at the Mechanical Licensing Collective. I'm also a professor of music industry entrepreneurship at UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music, which I've been doing that for 6 years. I've also taught at other universities, NYU, USC, CSUN, and so forth. But I currently head up third-party partnerships for the MLC, and we're going to dive deeper into MLC. Before I went to MLC, I founded Tune Registry, which is a music rights administration and metadata management software. And so that exited that. I founded Royalty Claim, which is the world's first search engine of unclaimed music royalties and unmatched works. Sold that as well. Prior to that, I founded Chasbo Music and Maven Promo, which is an in-store music video network that broke new artists via music videos in sneaker stores. I was on 150 retail stores across the country, and sold that company as well. And prior to that, I was more hands-on on the creative side, working directly with artists. I had an independent label, a publishing company, and an artist management and DJ management company. And that started back in 2008. So it's been we're 2011 now. So it's been the 13 years of shifting in terms of my focus in the industry as an entrepreneur. Prior to all that, I was an artist. Right? I came to Los Angeles as an aspiring artist. I grew up being developed as an artist. So I was artist. I was a talent side, and shifted in college at UCLA to the business side, starting with managing artists. I started managing DJs after being a top club promoter and booking DJs for many years in the college scene. So that's how I got into the business side, and that business interest continued to evolve just like yours over time, from business around artists to business around products, and then business around companies. And eventually my focus really took shape in grad school, getting my master's in music industry administration, where I really caught on to music publishing and copyright administration, which is my specialty.
Yeah.
So I work for a music rights organization. I've written research that's been used by the U.S. Congressional Budget Office during its economic analysis of the Music Modernization Act. I've contributed to research for other countries around unclaimed royalties and processes. I've spoken at the Library of Congress in regards to how the Copyright Office itself can establish strategies and processes for reaching songwriters and engaging independent songwriters, which is partly why the path towards my role began at MLC. My interest is helping artists understand everything they need to know about this very messy, very complex music rights ecosystem. Right for this call, I just spent a few minutes with a established producer who didn't even know he had royalties at a certain organization here in the U.S. And this is a repeat thing. I don't expect everyone to know every music rights organization and every type of license and every type of use case, because at the end of the day, most people don't. I know a lot, but I still don't know everything, and I'm always learning. And it's important to always be learning and to be open-minded to what you don't know and to get that accurate information. Some people are a little resistant to that.
Yeah, no, well, thank you. And thank you for being here. Obviously super knowledgeable. I want to jump into the MLC because it's a new organization. So let's just jump right in and talk about what it is and why it was started.
Yes, the MLC stands for the Mechanical Licensing Collective. And if anyone is familiar with the Music Modernization Act, let's talk about that, because that's really where it comes out of. Okay. So the Music Modernization Act was passed in 2018. It's a bundled piece of legislation that includes multiple legislations that were multiple bills all bundled into one. There's three parts. There's called Title I, which is the Musical Works Modernization Act. Title II, which is the Classics Protection Act. And then Title III is nicknamed the AMP Act, which is the Allocation for Music Producers Act. Those three titles make up the Music Modernization Act. Title I, and overall, the MMA for short, is the most significant update to the Copyright Act in decades, in terms of how many changes it made and adding new rights that didn't exist before, such as opening up rights for pre-1972 recordings, giving producers an allocation of royalties and a process by which they can collect digital radio royalties through sound exchange. Also addressing royalty rate processes. But the MMA Title I establishes an entity by which the Section 115 mechanical license, which is the license that's required for digital services like Spotify and Apple and Tidal and so forth, which requires them to properly license songs for the mechanical rights, which is the reproduction and distribution right. Prior to the MMA, there was no official organization in the United States responsible for ensuring that these works were licensed and paying publishers and songwriters. So the MMA Title I established a new entity called the Mechanical Licensing Collective. And this entity is a nonprofit organization that's designated by the United States Copyright Office to administer the new digital audio blanket license. This new license became available on January 1st this year. And this license is for digital service providers. Like I said, it's interactive services like Spotify and Apple and Tidal and Pandora. And that enables them to make sure that all those songs that they're using on their system is properly licensed in the United States. They then pay royalties for that use to the MLC and also deliver usage reports to the MLC. We then take that information, we match the usage reports to the musical work information that we have and then we're able to calculate royalties and make payments. In addition to that, which is something that's new in terms of the industry in general, we are completely free service to songwriters and publishers. So there's no administration fee for the service. You sign up for free, we collect your royalties, you get 100% of your royalties passed through. There's no 15% off the top, 10% off the top administration fee. In addition to that, it's a monthly check. So starting in April, we'll be doing our first distributions, and April forward, forever, it's a monthly check, as long as you actually have earned those royalties. But we will have monthly distributions, which is, can be really helpful for artists from a cash flow standpoint. Third piece to know is that if you are a songwriter and you own your own publishing and you have not joined or have not entered into a publishing deal or an administration deal, then you're considered a self-administered songwriter, and that makes you eligible to join the MLC.
Got you. So this is a royalty that so this obviously isn't a new royalty. So where was this money going prior to the MLC?
So the royalty is not new. The mechanical royalty has been around since 1909. And it has slowly gotten a little bit bigger, from 2 cents to 9.1 cents, where we're at now in terms of downloads. When it comes to streaming is a calculation based on a formula, based on the number of streams and the number of and the revenue that's generated by the service, and the number of publishers and so forth being paid out. But the money was being generated, but there was no organization designated to handle this. So there were a number of agents or mechanical clearinghouses that represented publishers. Harry Fox Agency, for example, is the oldest mechanical clearinghouse, established in the 1930s, 1937 or 1927. But Harry Fox represented publishers, their mechanical interests. And then there's music reports that represent digital service providers, and other companies as well. And they're sort of hired representatives of publishers or DSPs, but they don't represent everyone, right? So they don't represent all publishers. They represent the publishers. Harry Fox represents their affiliates, which is a lot of publishers, but it's not all publishers. It's certainly not all songwriters, because a lot of songwriters who are self-published cannot be affiliated with the Harry Fox Agency, although you can create a Harry Fox account, which is important to do. These organizations these agencies were able to do the administration for their clientele, but not for everybody else. So for everybody else who had works that are being uploaded to DSPs, they're earning mechanical royalties, but it's not being paid out. Those monies sit in a sort of an unclaimed royalty fund or unmatched royalty, however you want to call it. We call it black box for short. And these are royalties that are earned against actual usage, but not matched against a verified copyright for musical work, because the works has not been registered to anywhere where those royalties would flow. So let's say I'm an artist. I'm a hip hop artist. I've got a 14-track album, putting it up on Spotify using something like DistroKid. DistroKid does not provide publish administration. They provide audio distribution. They upload my service, and they upload my thing. It takes off. I get on playlists. It's doing really well, hundreds of thousands, a couple million streams. Well, what's happening is it's earning royalties for the master, of course. We know that flows through back to DistroKid and then to me, or any other distributors, whether it's Symphonic Distribution or CD Baby or TuneCore. I don't want to single them out, but pretty much
BeatStars. We got to throw in BeatStars since we're working with BeatStars.
BeatStars. I didn't know BeatStars did distribution.
They do distribution now.
That's good to know. It's good to know. I haven't been in the label business since 2012, so they weren't doing it back then. But BeatStars, you upload your music, and then you have a piece of your music. Your master side is coming through your distributor. Now, some distributors offer a publishing administration service, and you want to check it out and just determine if it's good for you or not. But if so, then that might be one route to capture your publishing side, your performance royalty and your mechanical royalties. But if they don't offer it, or they do offer it, but you simply don't want to sign up for it, then you have to have some other mechanism for capturing those royalties. Now, when it comes to the performance side, well, we have a mechanism because for over 100 years, we've had ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, and that's where the performance royalties flow. But in regards to mechanical royalties, we've had no one until last week. So with the Mechanical Licensing Collective, making it possible for mechanical royalties from DSPs at least to flow through a single source, so that songwriters can actually go to a single source and say, I need my mechanical royalties from Spotify or Apple or Deezer or Tidal or SoundCloud or Pandora or YouTube Music, all of them. So that's really the benefit. And it's, like I said, it's for free. There's no fee to sign up. It's government mandated, so it's not really it's not really a choice of, well, I don't want to do it, so I don't want my royalties to flow through mechanical license. Like, they're going to flow through us anyway. You're just either going to collect them because you joined, or you're just going to leave them on the table by not joining.
So let's clear up some confusion for people, because I'm sure some people are like, well, I have a pub administrator. Like, wouldn't they collect these royalties? And what if I am working with a pub administrator? Were they missing something? Are these the same royalties that come through my pub administrator? How would you clear that up?
Yeah, so I have this conversation all the time with artists who do have publishing administrators, or they have some kind of publishing administration service. If you have signed up for a publishing administrator, then it's the publishing administrator's role to register your works and collect your royalties and account to you and pay you. That's their job. That's what administration is. And generally speaking, you should obviously talk to them to make sure, but you should be fine. The publishing administrator would be a member of the MLC, and they would be the ones that we would account to and pay for the compositions, the musical works that have been registered with them as the payee. However, if you do not have all of your works with that publishing administrator, there's a possibility that you can still be considered self-administered on some of your works. This is the case, for example, with CD Baby Pro. If you use CD Baby Pro to release an album and you have coverage for the tracks on that album in terms of publishing administration, but that doesn't include anything that's not included in that release. So if I had 3 albums in the past and they're up on services, and I release a new one through let's say I released 3 albums in the past through any distributor, and then I released through CD Baby Pro, well, the CD Baby Pro service is going to cover that album that I distributed, but not necessarily the other 3 albums. So it's important to have a conversation with your publishing administrator to ensure what musical works are covered under their administration service.
Got you. So let's try, and I always encourage artists and producers to educate themselves as much as possible, but like they want things easy. They want to hear things easy. So if you are an artist, so if you were to just make sure that all your bases are covered, you're collecting your royalties 100%, what are all the organizations that you need to be signed up with?
So I went through this exercise back in 2009 or 10, when I used to manage songwriters and producers and artists. And I had my little artist management company and my publishing company, and I created this checklist. It was called the Song Processing Checklist. It's similar to the title. It was an Excel spreadsheet, and I actually, it was a Microsoft Word document. And I made a list of all the places that I had to go register the works on behalf of my clients, and then also the type of confirmation numbers I would get from each of those registrations. and we just check it off. And that was my processing checklist. Check all these things off, register the stuff, go one by one. It was a nightmare. And as a result, I ended up, thinking there has to be a one-stop shop where I can go and set this song up once, put in all the information, my co-writers, our IPI numbers, all that stuff, and then it should be able to send it out to all these places. I'm going to give you the list of places, but nothing existed, and that's why I ended up founding a tune registry to do that. But in the United States, on the publishing side, you have PROs. So ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC are the three most popular. But you also have GMR, which is a boutique PRO that's invite only. And they have AllTrack, which is the new digital first PRO that's really focusing on the independent artists and digital music or digital royalties. On the publishing side, you also have the mechanical royalties. So now you have the MLC. But it's really important to understand that we do not cover all mechanical royalties. The MLC, in accordance with the Music Modernization Act, only covers digital mechanical royalties for interactive streaming services like Spotify and Apple, for digital downloads, and for temporary or limited downloads. So that's it. What we don't cover for mechanical royalties are cover songs or ringtones or physical goods like vinyl and CDs. Those royalties are still fragmented in terms of how it's administered in the United States. That being said,
was there a reason why that wasn't included in the act?
Well, the main issue at hand was the growing black box of digital royalties, which has been valued at over $2 billion. The growing box of unclaimed royalties. Also, the fact that from a music consumption standpoint, the industry had been exponentially growing streaming being the dominant method for consumers to access music. And the licensing requirements of DSPs did not have the proper infrastructure to administer those licensing requirements in a way that was efficient. For example, the Section 115 of the Copyright Act requires a licensee, someone who wants to obtain a license, a mechanical license, to send a notice to the copyright owner. So let's say you wrote a song and I want to do a cover of that song. Well, I can use what's called a compulsory license. I can go and get, all I need to do is send you a notice and a notice of intent to obtain a compulsory mechanical license. As long as I send you that, and I also account to you on a monthly basis and send you a check on a monthly basis for the amount of the royalty rate as set by the Copyright Royalty Board, then I'm in compliance, and therefore I have a mechanical license. What people don't understand is that in the United States, a compulsory mechanical license is a license that's only granted as long as you follow the procedures of the legislation. It's not an actual document that we exchange. So when I say I have a mechanical license, or you're getting mechanical royalties because Spotify has a mechanical license, is not that you gave Spotify an actual document, a contract that says, here's your mechanical license. It's that Spotify is following or has to follow the procedures, the requirements or the stipulations or the provisions, all these different terms we use, of the actual Section 115 of the law. So that it lists it out. It says you need to send this notice of intent. You need to report on a monthly basis. You need to make payments to the copyright owner. But if the copyright owner is unknown, then that notice goes to the Copyright Office, the United States Copyright Office. So for a long time, the United States Copyright Office was receiving millions of actual paper notices from all the DSPs every single month, multiple times a month. So every time a independent artist uploaded an album or release through an aggregator, distributor, Again, whether it's BeatStars or CD Baby or TuneCore or Symphonic or DistroKid, every time they do that, the DSPs that receive it has to then secure their mechanical license. And that process included sending a notice of the copyright owners in the musical works that are embodied in those sound recordings on the track. And that information, that metadata, was often not there, right? So, when you're sending a release to Spotify from a distributor who does not have the publishing information in regards to the sound recording, then in regards to musical work, then the service doesn't know who to send the notice to. So instead, they send the notice to the Copyright Office because that's what the law allows as an exception. Or as a remedy in the sense of not having it off. So they were sending them to the Copyright Office. And the Copyright Office finally came up with an electronic version, because the paper versions was, you get millions of papers in the mail. That's basically what was going on, right? So then in 2016, there was a electronic bulk process where they were sending Excel files, literally an Excel file with each row of the file. So you open up one Excel file and you have a row. That row is one notice to one copyright owner. And in that file was 200,000 rows. And that file is one of 300 files in a zipped folder being sent every couple of days. So you're getting, if you're at the Copyright Office, you went from getting boxes of paper mail to receiving zip folders with 300 Excel files, each file with 200,000 or however many thousand rows. And those are notices of intent now in little font on a computer. And that's not usable, right? If you're an artist, how do you search that? How do you go find your notice of intent? You couldn't. It was absolutely impossible, which is why I built a company called Royalty Claim. And we went and we ingested all of these things, opened them up, and made it searchable in a very easy platform. But that still didn't really solve the problem. It was simply a Band-Aid, right? Okay, now we can access the information, but we're not solving the problem, which is that these registrations, this whole process is broken, right? This entire process of me uploading an album through a distributor, the distributor sending it to Spotify not having the information, and then sending a notice to the Copyright Office, and then that notice sits in a unknown, well, not a widely known web page, which was public accessible. So it's accessible to the public, but most public doesn't know about it, right? So it's a web page, and all it has is just links to Excel files. So the average independent artist is not going to know anything about that. And if they knew something about that, they're still not going to go through the process of finding. There's no way to find your name in 60 million lines of Excel.
Right.
So that was part of the problem. Then there were other issues. But what happens to this black box money, right? So streaming is still growing, right? Streaming overtook downloads in 2015. And then it became the number one consumption for consumers. So streaming is growing, which means mechanical royalties are growing, which means the black box in which unpaid mechanicals is growing. And the industry insiders are looking at this like, okay, this is a problem. You have tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to tens of millions to hundreds of millions to now potentially billions that is being accrued. And the question is, to whom is this money owed? Last year, the hip hop community, hip hop and R&B, was 1/3 of streaming consumption. In 2018 is when it hit a quarter, because I wrote about it. I wrote an article, and I talked about this very issue in 2018. But in 2018 or 2017, hip hop and R&B was a quarter of streaming consumption. Now we're a third. Right. So now that there's a third, if you are a third of the streaming consumption, and the streaming consumption is producing $2 billion in unclaimed mechanical royalties, who maybe a lot of that money is owed to, right?
Right.
The group that is less likely to have a publisher who's less likely to have registered works, who's less likely to know about these Excel files on the Copyright Office webpage, right? That's the group that that I've been constantly trying to, well, all groups, but this is a special, underrepresented and overrepresented in terms of music consumption, underrepresented in terms of music rights representation.
Right.
So, when you look at that issue, that's a separate issue altogether. But you have this growing industry, which is streaming, and this growing bucket of unclaimed royalties. So, industry insiders wanted to make sure that we can get this money distributed. The other piece is what happens to this money eventually. Well, in terms of policy is concerned, it was, by practice, DSPs held on to the money, but they're able to liquidate that money. They're able to pay it out by market share, right? They're able to use, that money in settlements. So there may have been lawsuits or anything like that, because they're not required to pay mechanical royalties if the works are not properly registered to Copyright Office or not registered at all. That's legislation. So some people were nervous that this money would be distributed by market share. So by market share means who's going to get the money? Well, the bigger the market share you have, the more of the pie you're going to get. Which means if you're a major publisher, then you're in line to get a bigger chunk than an independent publisher. If you're an independent publisher, you're in line to get a bigger chunk than an individual artist, right? So individual artists that maybe doing a few million people a year, streams a year, I mean, that turns out to be tens of thousands of dollars. When I ran Tune Registry, we had artists that were independent, completely independent, no label, no manager. I mean, no label, sometimes no manager, no publisher, and still had $10,000, $15,000, $30,000 of back unpaid royalties in mechanicals, just in mechanicals, from years of streaming. So, that's alarming, because that's people's money, right? That they earn. And that should not be going to any company based on their market share, without there being some effort put into trying to find that kid and get him that money. And that's what the MLC is able to do. We have a mandate to match that unmatched money to the actual copyright owners. And we've been working on that already. We have a number of initiatives underway. We just did a press release to talk about some of the stuff I've been working on over the last few months. The Data Quality Initiative, which is an initiative to get the rights holders to check their data, to make sure it's accurate, to make sure that we can match properly, because we have the accurate information so we can find them. We have our bulk registration form that's coming out, and I'm working with our partners around that. We have a portal that enables anyone to be able to search songs to see if their songs are in our system. We have another portal that allows you to search unmatched, which is something you couldn't do before, right? You weren't able to see what was not being paid out on, right? We just knew that there was money being earned and not paid out, but you weren't able to see what that was. And with our unmatched database, you're able to see that. So we're putting tools in the people's hands for free that empowers them to be able to be their own advocates, to be better prepared, to be better accessed to their data and to their information. So that's what the MLC is able to do as a result of the Music Modernization Act passing in 2018.
Awesome. So I messed up my own question, so I got to go back to it, because we got to make it a little easier for folks. So if again, the list of things that they should be signed up with, organizations they should be signed up with.
Yeah. You didn't mess it up. I just went off on a tangent.
to collect their royalties in their entirety. What would you say?
So, well, we started that, and then I got to MLC, and then I went off my tangent. But so I said, well, let me take a step back. You have to know that we have, you have two copyrights as an artist. You have the copyright in your song, your musical work. You have the copyright in your sound recording. So as far as your musical work is concerned, which is the lyrics, the melody, arrangement, your actual composition, you have your performance royalties from ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, all track, GMR. You have your mechanical royalties. That's where I got hung up at. Your mechanical royalties with the MLC, but also, like I said, you also need to make sure you look into Harry Fox and Music Reports because they are also doing administration on mechanical royalties that we don't touch. So you want to look into that. And then on the sound recording side, you have Sound Exchange. So if you are a featured artist or an independent label, or if you're an artist who is self-releasing, so therefore you are your own label, you need to make sure you join Sound Exchange so you collect your digital radio royalties on that side. For producers, Sound Exchange has the Creative Affiliate Program for producers. The Music Modernization Act, for the first time, included a piece of legislation specifically for producers and engineers. It's called AMP, Allocation for Producers and Engineers. So you have to get a letter of direction from your artist, client, or partner that directs Sound Exchange to be able to pay you out some of the digital radio royalties. But there's now a guidance for that in the form of the AMP Act, Allocation for Music Producers. Then a little known fund that a lot of artists and producers and session musicians and vocalists don't know about is called the AFM and SAG-AFTRA Intellectual Property Rights Distribution Fund. For short, their website is AFM SAG-AFTRA Fund. Just make sure real quick. Yeah, afmsagaftrafund.org. Now, this is an organization that pays out background vocalists and session musicians on their work. So let's say you have a track, you have a featured artist who's the main vocalist on the verse, and maybe a guest artist who's on the hook, but then you have some background vocals. Those background vocalists are getting paid a royalty as well, but through a different organization called the AFM SAG-AFTRA Intellectual Property Rights Distribution Fund. I have a client who's my cousin, Durant, who worked on a record for the internet. And I wrote a whole piece about it this summer because I was able to find him, I think, $8,000 or $10,000 in back royalties that he wasn't paid out as a background vocalist. And I have a little story on that. And there's a lot of clients like that out there who did background vocals on something for a friend or whatever, depending on how big the song is. The other thing to note is producers, especially hip hop producers. I work with a lot this summer as well, helping getting some money during the pandemic. If you are producing beats with MIDI instruments, then you can be considered a session musician for the purposes of royalties. So if you're making a whole MIDI instrumentation track, just because you're not using live instruments doesn't mean you're not considered a session musician for the purposes of royalties at the fund. So we had that scenario, and we looked it up, and sure enough, we had an artist, producer, who had royalties that were sitting there uncollected because they were earned, but he never registered himself and his credits on the recording.
What kind of documentation divvies those royalties? Like if there were 8 session players or background vocals, like what kind of documentation would divvy that?
Well, what we used to have when there was physical stuff is you had your liner notes that provided the credits, the proper authoritative credits, right? Actual physical piece of paper in the jacket of the album. Now we don't have that because it's mostly digital. And what's happening now is artists and their team are and I say this having worked in this space for many years, running Tune Registry, which is metadata management and track credit management, is simply not capturing the credits. Right, we're working on the project. Everybody's in the studio. People coming in and out, people adding to it, but not tracking the credits. And then worse, even if they're tracking some of the credits, they're not disseminating the information out into the world. Right. So whether it's on Discogs, Music Brains, Wikipedia, there's a number of new startups that are focusing on credits. I believe Jexta is one example. So getting your credits out there is not only about people seeing for exposure. It is actually has an impact on eligibility for royalties, because you cannot register songs onto the AFM SAG-AFTRA Fund website. They have their own internal research team that will research and identify. They will try to research and track down the track credits based on the information that they get that comes in from Sound Exchange, as well as many other sources. They have many sources that they pay royalties on behalf of, private copy royalties, record rentals, and so forth. But if they don't have access to, if they don't have your track credits, then you're simply, you're not gonna, they're not gonna be able to verify that you actually worked on a record. So that requires, the artist, the label, the team to register the track credits and get it, distributed and out to all the places.
But in terms of percentage, like, is it just if there's four?
There's a real percentage. So this is how it works. So let's use digital radio. So internet, Sirius XM, or satellite. So internet, satellite, cable. So digital radio is a royalty that came out of the digital performance rights for sound recordings in 1995. So there's new legislation that came in 1995. The digital performance right in sound recordings established this royalty for internet, cable, and satellite radio. That money comes into Sound Exchange from Pandora, from iHeartRadio, from Slacker, from SiriusXM, from Muzak or Music Choice on cable. That comes into Sound Exchange. Sound Exchange, let's say it's $100. $50, 50% goes to the sound recording copyright owner. So the label, or if you're a self-releasing artist and you own your masters, then you're the sound recording owner. So you get 50%, you get $50. 45%, $45 go to the feature performers. So if it's just you, then you get the $45. If it's two of you, if it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many, if it's Maroon 5, it's 5 feature performers, then they split that 5 ways, right? So that 45% gets split 5 ways for that band, if so whatever the case may be. But 45% and 50% does not equal 100%. We're missing a 5%. That 5% is what goes to the AFM and SAG-AFTRA Fund.
Got you.
So that 5% gets passed onward to the AFM and SAG-AFTRA Intellectual Property Distribution Fund. And then it's their responsibility of identifying the non-feature performers, which are considered session musicians and background vocalists. And then they pay them out from that 5%. They also have other funds that they're paying out from, audiovisual, symphonic, and things like that. So there's other things too. But that money. So let's say, let me give you an example of how you can get 100% of your royalties from digital radio. Let's say I'm a rapper and a producer. So I produced the beat, right? And I used MIDI instrumentation, and I wrote the lyrics, and I rapped on it. So I did it all, right? So when it comes to the publishing side, I'm my own publisher. So I'm going to get half my publishing income from ASCAP, and then as a publisher, and then with the other half of it from ASCAP as a writer, because ASCAP pays out 50-50, 50% to the publisher, 50% to the writer. So if I'm the publisher and I'm the writer, then I get 100% of the royalties from ASCAP. Same thing with BMI, same thing with CSEC. Now on the so I could, because I wrote it and I produced it, so I'm the writer and I'm the publisher, but I also performed on it. So I'm the featured artist. So I get the featured artist 45% from Sound Exchange, but I'm also self-released, meaning I own the master. So I also get the 50% from Sound Exchange for the label side. And then at 5% sliver, well, I produced it and I use MIDI instrumentation. So I'm a session musician. So I'm gonna credit myself as a session musician so that I can open up that royalty stream from the AFM SAG-AFTRA fund. So now I'm playing with 100% of the pie on both the publishing side and the master side. Then, because I'm self-published, I'm going to MLC and signed up to unlock my mechanical royalties. So that's how I'm getting 100% of the royalties as an independent, self-releasing, self-producing, self-writing, self-performing artist.
Nice. I think that's the part that I'm going to clip and post to our Instagram page so that people a little bit more clear. So before I get into a few questions, because I don't want to take up too much more of your time, I know we're almost at 1 o'clock. Do you have any suggestions on where, if they didn't catch some of those acronyms or some of the things that you talked about, what are some of the resources that you point artists and producers to if they want to follow up or if they need clarity?
Well, the number one resource, as far as I'm concerned, is my ebook that I wrote, which is the DIY Musician's Starter Guide to Being Your Own Label and Publisher. I wrote this book for Creative Future, which is one of the largest creator advocacy organizations out of DC. And they have over 100,000 creators across multiple industries, from film to TV to music, that they represent and advocate for. I wrote an ebook. It's called The DIY Musician's Starter Guide to Being Your Own Label and Publisher. And it breaks down.
Feel free to put the link in the because when you post to the comments, it'll go everywhere. Or you have a comment box too, right there in the the bottom right. Do you see it? Or do you see?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I can post it.
Cool.
Let's see if that's chat with people. Okay, comments. Okay, let's see if I can get in the comments here.
And then for the people that are watching, go ahead and, whether you're watching on Periscope or YouTube or Facebook, go ahead and post some questions in the comments. We won't be able to get to them all, but I do want to take some of your questions. So
yeah, let me clarify where you can get the ebook, because I don't see I can't post in the comments unless I logged in. I didn't log in. You can get the ebook from my website, dayboganmusic.com. Yeah. If you go to dayboganmusic.com, on the right column, it just says free ebook, and there's a blue image with the yellow headphones.
Oh, free too. You guys have no excuse. Get that ebook ASAP. All right, cool. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to post some questions. And I saw a bunch of questions. I should have flagged them as we were having a discussion, but I didn't want to stop the flow. But go ahead, just post in the comments. Let's see. Here goes one from Michael Finn. I currently use Coda, which is the Danish version of ASCAP. If I was to relocate to the US down the line, do you recommend that I switch to ASCAP, or would it be unnecessary?
I mean, that's a personal choice. If you're going to move to the US and operate from the US for a period of time, it makes sense to use a local PRO, because you're going to be if you're going to generate royalties in this territory and your representation is outside this territory, that means your royalties are going to first flow out of this territory, get hit with an administration fee by your PRO that's outside the territory, and then come get paid back to you, and then get hit with taxes here. So you might as well keep it all here.
Does ASCAP collect performance royalties globally? I thought it was just this could be.
ASCAP has reciprocal agreements globally with all the PROs. So if you're a U.S. songwriter signed with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, GMR, they have reciprocal agreements with all the PROs where they send the royalties to the territory it's supposed to go to, and they also receive royalties in from all the territories. But again, there would be from some territories, there's a local collection administration fee, and then it gets here, and then you have your collection administration fee.
Got you. And just to clear this up from before, with the MLC, if you are already with a pub admin, should you touch base with them before they sign up separately?
Absolutely. You need to touch base with them for a number of reasons. Number one, you just need to make sure that they actually are a member of the MLC, because remember, we just started accepting membership. So people are coming online right now. Organizations are coming online right now. So you want to ensure that they are completely set up so that when we start doing our April distribution of royalties, that your publishing administrator is set up to receive those royalties. You also want to make sure that they have the information about your musical works, and properly register them with us, or check if it's already been registered to make sure that the data is accurate using our data quality initiative program. And we have a number of data quality initiative partners so that independent artists can also participate in data quality initiative. It's on our website. But you want to check the data, because basically what's happening is we're going to start receiving the usage reports and the royalties from digital services next month, February, I believe it's February 15th or something around there. We're going to receive our first usage statements, and then we're going to start receiving the royalties, and then we take the information, we look at what we have in terms of registered works, we apply that to it and calculate and make payments.
So I would imagine that you guys do have a relationship with like the big, like the Song Trust and like
yeah. So Song Trust is not only a member, but Song Trust has a representative on our committee. We have 3 committees, advisory committees. So Song Trust has a representative on one of our advisory committees. If you are with Song Trust, then you would be included. In fact, I'm doing one of these conversations on Wednesday for Song Trust. So if you are with Song Trust, you should need to go to their Instagram and you'll see me on there. So Song Trust is set up properly. However, if you have recordings, or if you have works that are not represented under your Song Trust administration, which was the case with someone I was talking to earlier today, he has some works that is not under his Song Trust administration, then you're still self-administer, and then you are eligible for those works to be able to join the MLC directly and get paid directly.
Got you. So just to reiterate, I know he just said it. If your entire catalog is not with your admin, if you have some songs outside, then register those directly with the MLC. I'm not sure why you would have some songs outside of your.
Well, it happens. For the case with this, this person, they, like some people who've gone from a major or a major indie publishing deal to, kind of out of a publishing deal, may still have some works that are tethered to that deal, and then their new stuff is available for them to do whatever they want to do with. So that happens sometimes.
Got you. So Paul Neal says, will it be easier / cheaper to sign up with the MLC and close my admin?
Well, the MLC is free, so that's all I gotta say about that.
but you guys, a good administrators, is more comprehensive in their collection than.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't say go out and close your admin. I wouldn't say that from a MLC perspective. Yeah, so with my MLC hat on, I wouldn't say that.
Got you. Okay, cool. Let's do a couple more, and then I got to close this down for the day. Let's see. Does MLC handle YouTube monetization and content ID?
That's a great question. So I can clarify. The MLC only handles audio-only services that are interactive, which means MLC does not handle audio-visual services like YouTube. We also do not handle audio-only services that are non-interactive, like Pandora. Well, Pandora has an interactive piece. We handle that. We don't handle Pandora's non-interactive piece, right? So if it's radio style, like SiriusXM, we don't handle that. But no audio video. So no YouTube, no Instagram, no Snap, no nothing with video.
Got you. Okay, we'll do one more. How far back does MLC collect royalties?
From the day the service began operations in the United States.
Got it. Okay, cool. So
provided the service had been accruing royalty since then. As a reminder, these services were not required by law to hold on to royalties for any musical work that was not registered with the Copyright Office. That's the law. That's in Section 115 of the Copyright Law. So if your song was never registered with the Copyright Office, then technically no one owes you mechanical royalties. And that's the stipulation of the Section 115. That being said, the services didn't operate that way. They held on to the royalties regardless of the fact that they didn't have to, because, well, partly because a lot of it was mixed up with stuff that they did have to hold on to because they were properly registered. So you couldn't really tell the difference sometimes.
Got you. Okay, so I know that a lot of this stuff, some of the terms, things might have went over some people's heads. This wasn't intended for you to know everything in 50 minutes. Day has provided a wonderful resource on his website. If you go to dayboganmusic.com, I'll put the link in the comments already. I'll also post a link in our Facebook group a little later on this afternoon. So you'll have it there. But Day, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you can come back soon and give us some updates on how things are going. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I'm going to be starting a text marketing webinar / office hours. These are going to be live and weekly, and it's going to start in about 30 minutes. It's the link to sign up, and this free, of course. The link to sign up is in the MEC Instagram bio. So if you guys want to learn about text marketing, how to use it, why you should be using it, lock in with me. I'm going to be doing that every Monday at 1:30 p.m. So a little after the MEC sessions every Monday. But thank you, Day. Do you have any last closing words for folks?
I would just say, if you're eligible to join the MLC, get over there, start the process now. We have a support center that's open 6 days a week, including Saturdays to 8 p.m. And also, as far as reaching out to me, I'm highly active on social media. I'm at Day Bogan Music everywhere. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse. Now I'm on that. It's at Day Bogan Music. And my inbox, it gets full, but I respond to every message. I spent hours yesterday getting the 99 new messages clear through. So it may take a while, but I'll get back to you. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to do a one-on-one call. I have to say that right now, but I'll get back and say something.
Day is a wonderful resource, super knowledgeable. We didn't get to talk about the Clubhouse drama, but
Clubhouse. Let me spend 30 seconds on that. For me, it wasn't drama because I'm new to Clubhouse. I actually just joined Clubhouse, and my first Clubhouse room was that. But someone reached out to me who was an audience member in this conversation, in this dialogue, and sent me a message asking, can I join in to clarify some issues around ISRC. ISRC stands for International Standard Recording Code. Now, I'm a US ISRC manager. I've assigned lots of ISRCs through my service tune registry. I'm also on the ISNI music sector consultation group, and also a member of DDEX. So I'm a part of the music code community and music standard community and so forth. So they asked me to come in and clarify something. When I came in, it was basically an interrogation of a distributor owner, and some of the questions I felt were legit tough questions to ask anyone that you're providing services or money to, you're paying. As a CEO of companies that had to account to, be accountable to my artists, clients, I would expect to get the tough questions as well. There was an element of rudeness that came through sometimes too, but there was basically some misinformation. And at the end of the day, my role is to clarify misinformation. I do this in my work every day. So that's all I did. I stepped in. I got 5 minutes on the mic and clarified some information in regards to ISRCs. And then someone messaged me on Instagram and asked me for some additional information, which I clarified and reposted. But apparently there had been an hour's worth or whatever of conversation that I had nothing to do with at all. But
yeah. So in your day, so find Day on Clubhouse as well, because I think Clubhouse that's definitely a net positive. There's a lot of people with a lot of information on there that's good. But on the flip side, just like everywhere else, there's people spreading information that's not so good as well. So follow Day, because I'm sure the room that he jumps into in the future, you'll get the good information. So cool. All right, Day, I'll be in touch, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.